Okay, so it's been a couple of days since we last talked about the Holostars situation, which has been going on recently, and it's been a pretty interesting one. Now, again, it seems that we have a slight update now with a member of Holostars EN actually talking about the whole stuff that went on with JP. Now, if you're not caught up with what happened, we got a ton of videos going into detail of it, but essentially the bottom line is they're downsizing Holostars JP, mainly due to the fact that I think it's just not profitable enough. And they weren't making the money that maybe they want to, in comparison to, hololive and stuff, which cover also, run. But again, it seems to be a very interesting time as, obviously they aren't done. They aren't like graduating or anything. It just means they're going to be getting less support on stuff like events, like group events, merch and stuff like that as well, which of course isn't great to hear as a VTuber who is a part of an agency, because you usually join an agency for those kind of things, right? But obviously there's been mixed reaction to this. Some people understanding why, because of course a lot of people don't really, watch Holostars all that often, which obviously, it's always been a meme in the community. A true Holostars fan never watches Holostars. And of course that has obviously shown in terms of the money that has been coming in. And from like a purely business standpoint, it does kind of make sense. But also there's been a lot of people as well not very happy because, of course, these are people, these are, all of the talent are people with careers, and some of them have obviously moved to Japan and stuff literally to do this, if not recently, right? To be told that essentially stuff is going to be kind of downsized. But it seems like Crimzon Ruze here, a member of Holostars EN, which is the EN branch, which I don't think has been affected by it as much, at least by the downsizing, obviously, but it does kind of prove like, hey, you might be next, right? That's the kind of thing that they've got going down their shoulder right now. But yeah, they've been reacting to it pretty heavily as well, because obviously they are the EN kind of compatriots, or whatever you want to call it, of the Holostars kind of group, or whatever you want to call it. Obviously, yeah, there's been people saying Ruze goes on a heated rant about the Stars JP situation and calls out cover management, which is pretty surprising, because obviously this is a talent literally calling out their own management, which doesn't really get seen, especially within a lot of Japanese companies as well. It's really one of these things where he might be screwed, right? He might be a little bit screwed in terms of speaking out about, things, because often talents are very limited as to what they can say on certain situations, as we've seen with this situation, right? Not everybody, people have been making jokes about it and whatnot. They've been pretty free, actually, to say a lot of things about this situation. But, sometimes it can go a little bit far. Now, this clip has been going around, but we do have a TLDR of this, essentially, to tell you what went on from Nosagi. So go give him a follow. Essentially, it says, Ruze angrily vents his issues with the Cover Corp. It's a TLDR. Ruze has been angry at Cover Corp for a while now. So again, it seems like it's been before this whole Holostars thing has gone on. It said, Ruze thinks there is a lot of useless people at the top who does jack shit and has no business running the agency. Which is kind of crazy, right? It's kind of crazy because obviously you got to remember, he's still in Holostars EN, right? This could like get him in some serious trouble with some of the top people. Obviously, talking bad about them, saying that they don't know anything, and they don't do anything, and they have no business running the agency and stuff like that. That could get you in some serious trouble with someone who is literally working underneath them, right? They say wanted to put his anger behind after his anniversary, but apparently it just kept on happening after his anniversary. Came into the agency skeptical, but was surprised at how incompetent and stupid they were. Obviously, that's his words. So almost quit during his 3D, but endured for the fans and then the other boys, and apparently turned the other cheek from insult to, at this point, active sabotage. Won't quit very soon, as he promised his fans, but he doesn't see a future for him here. Implies that he might leave soon. So yeah, it definitely seems like Ruze is unhappy with his time at Holostars EN, right? And is saying that he has some issues with cover as well. Now, of course, this is slightly separate from the JP kind of side of things. Obviously, the JP stuff has obviously kind of, I guess, brought it all together and kind of had the, what do you call it? Like the climax of it all, really, if you could really call it that. It's a bit of an odd way to kind of describe it, but you get what I mean, right? It's the kind of, straw the broke the camel's back. Is that what we call it? And essentially, yeah, a lot of these things have been factors in this kind of building up, and now it seems like he's finally kind of had enough. Said doesn't trust cover to support the boys, and he doesn't speak for the boys. So yeah, obviously, he's saying that essentially, you know, although this might be his opinion on cover and all of this kind of stuff, which is a pretty, you know, controversial opinion, especially considering how much trouble he could get in now. You know, he doesn't speak for all of the other people within Holostars EN, which, of, you know, I think that's fair enough, right? Of course, that's, you know, protecting a lot of his, you know, friends and whatever within Holostars. So, again, I don't think it is one of these things that really, you know, does affect them. It's more so just Ruze. And obviously what he has said, he might get in some trouble, right? And again, it might be bad. But yeah, I mean, essentially, I can understand why he's not very happy at the moment, because of course, you know, although I don't think Holostars EN has been hit yet, if they do end up having the same kind of changes and downsizing that JP has had, I can understand why maybe a lot of people will want to leave, because if you guys know, the kind of rise of indie VTubing has actually been, you know, getting pretty popular. Now, of course, there's always the conversation of, oh, male VTubers do worse than female VTubers, which is true, though. This is a very heavily dominated female platform. But I think there's a lot of popular male VTubers out there who can also do content, and even outside of VTubing, you know, they can do like normal IRL content as well. I think there's definitely a space for that, which is obviously growing, and a lot of VTubers are, you know, kind of moving towards doing stuff like that instead of being a part of an agency, because agencies were like all the rage, obviously, a couple of years ago, right? You know, it was all the kind of everyone wanted to get into an agency, whether it's Neji-Sanji, Hololive, you know, all these other ones. You know, it's the big thing. But now it seems like indie VTubers, or you know, some people don't like the term indie for whatever reason, or what do you call it, independent. But it still is indie. If it, like, indie means okay, but like, you get what I mean, right? Even if they are sponsored by like some big company to do it or whatever, they're still independent in whatever work they can do, and in terms of whatever content they can do. And a lot of people are starting to prefer that, right? They're starting to prefer, like, okay, you know, maybe if I just leave this agency and go and do something else, maybe I could actually have a little bit more success, be a little bit more freer. And I think, honestly, you know, that's what some people are thinking now over within Holostars as well. Because, you know, a lot of people, you know, we know how kind of, what do you call it, like how dedicated our VTuber fans can be, right? VTuber fans can be extremely dedicated in terms of finding, you know, old talent. So say, for example, Ruze was to graduate and, you know, go on to do indie VTubing, right? That would be found in a Twitter thread literally the day after, like the day of, whenever he makes the account, right? Literally, they will find it straight away and find him, and people will be there to support him or whatever, you know, to kind of, you know, keep on supporting him, right? Even if he isn't known as Ruze, because obviously, you know, usually these companies, they own the whole IP and all of this kind of stuff. So with a lot of that stuff going on, and it's not just within Hololive as well, so Neji-Sanji, all these other companies, people leaving, graduating and going as an indie, and then getting a lot of attention as an indie as well, because people know that they've been part of, you know, they used to be this person. You know, a lot of people have had success with that. A lot of people are finding success with that, and I think a lot of other VTubers are seeing that they're finding success with that and thinking, well, you know, things are getting cut down, my concerts are getting cut down, obviously, you know, they got a lot of work to do with the agency as well. Is it better just to graduate and try to start from scratch as an indie, right? And that's a serious conversation that some people are having, right? And I don't know if that's what Ruze is thinking, or if he's just thinking of quitting altogether and just doing something completely different. I don't know. But obviously, it's something that is weighing on a lot of people's minds now, that are at least in agencies, whether that indie route is for them. Because, as I said, there's been a lot of stories of people being successful after it, right? For example, obviously one big one being Gura, who obviously was within cover and is now gone on to be quite successful now, despite obviously not really streaming as much at the moment. But again, you know, a lot of people have been discussing that as well. But again, I can understand why he is angry. I can understand why, you know, he has some issues, right? And it is, you know, concerning to see that he has these issues. But as I said, streaming this and publicly doing it, God, I wouldn't like to be him at the moment in terms of, you know, people messaging him and saying, hey, you kind of messed up there. Like, why did you speak about this? You're going to get in a lot of trouble because, again, you know, as much as I think that it does suck, sometimes, you know, it can get a little bit crazy, right? People said management has been an issue there for a long time. The fact that it took people not to notice that they would basically axe the entire JP branch to get more people to have eyes on them is a good indicator that there is very little promotion of them. They're like the bastard child born from adultery the company doesn't want to talk about, which is crazy. I said, dude, there's no way he doesn't get reprimanded for this. Blood is literally threatening cover to graduate on mail. Which, yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly, right? He said, I'll give him credit for not talking smack about hololive Oshi talents, which, you know, fair enough. So I'm glad one of the boys is going mask off for this. It makes me wonder if Vespa and Magni had to deal with this too. So you can tell from the people under this post that they aren't fans of hololive if they don't want to support Holostars when you got quite a few EN and JP and practically all of ID that support I love the boys from Stars, a bunch of fake fans and unicorns outing themselves. I said, me wondering why Vespa and Magni left as they did is starting to make sense, which again, yeah, I mean, some people have been discussing that, right? But yeah, I mean, it is a pretty interesting situation. I just thought I'd keep you guys up to date, obviously, with the Holostar stuff going on at the moment. But it does seem like potentially there could be some repercussions for this clip and for what he has said coming towards him. And we'll have to see what happens with that. But yeah, I mean, that's about all I got for this video. If you guys did enjoy it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, good at GameStop, use my code Kaza, get 10% off. Again, they've got a ton of really cool stuff over there. Definitely recommend checking it out. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. That's all. See ya.